Barack Obama left the White House in January 2017, waving goodbye to the cameras, the crowds, and what most Americans assumed was the end of his political power. Like every president before him, he was expected to fade into the background, to write memoirs, speak at high-paid events, perhaps build a presidential library. That's the script. That's what people are told to believe. But what if that's just the illusion? As the screen fades in, Tucker Carlson adjusts his tie, his brow furrowed with a rare seriousness. The studio lights cast a soft glow, but the atmosphere is heavy, charged with anticipation. He leans forward, eyes locked on the camera. Tonight, he begins, we're going to talk about something hiding in plain sight. Something massive. Something so deeply embedded in modern politics, most people don't even question it. The words land like a quiet thunder. There's no dramatics, just wait. Because the truth isn't loud. It's systemic. For decades, Americans have watched former presidents transform into global figures. Wealthy, influential, untouchable. It's expected, even celebrated. But with Obama, something feels different. Something is different. Behind the polished speeches and best-selling books, behind the carefully curated public image, a new kind of power structure is quietly taking shape. Elon Musk, seated across from Carlson, leans in slightly. His tone is calm, but there's steel behind his eyes. Let me put it this way, he says. Obama didn't leave office. He simply changed positions. This is the idea that shocks the system. The suggestion that America's 44th president didn't walk away from power, but instead rebranded it, repackaged it, made it mobile. Power in the 21st century doesn't require a title or a government office. It only requires access. Access to influence, to money, to global networks. And Obama, Musk suggests, mastered that game better than anyone. The question isn't whether he's rich. We already know that. The real question is, how did he get there? And more importantly, what is he doing with that power now? Carlson lets the silence hang for a moment, his hands clasped on the desk. The implication is clear. This isn't just about Obama's wealth. It's about what that wealth represents, a system where political service is just the prelude to unimaginable influence. A system where the exit door from public office leads straight into private empires. And for those paying attention, this might not just change how they view Obama. It might change how they view democracy itself. Because if the people we elect never really leave the game, if the power they accumulate while in office only multiplies after they step down, then maybe we've misunderstood how the system really works all along. And that's the story no one wants to talk about. Most Americans have grown used to a pattern. A president leaves office, he writes a book, tours the country, giving speeches, maybe launches a foundation or builds a library in his name. It's the well-worn path of prestige, honor, and legacy. We see the headlines: $400,000 per speech, a $65 million book deal, a stunning oceanfront mansion in Martha's Vineyard. It all looks successful, earned, maybe even deserved. But Elon Musk, staring levelly at Tucker Carlson across the table, drops a different perspective. That's just the surface, he says. What you see is the public story. The real game? It happens behind closed doors. Carlson doesn't flinch, but you can feel the shift in the air. The studio is silent, the audience leaning in, not physically but mentally. Because Musk isn't just making an accusation. He's describing a system where money is only the camouflage. The true currency? Influence. Musk continues, his voice steady but firm. Obama didn't just walk away with a best-selling memoir. He walked into a world where his connections, his name, and his silence are worth billions. It's a jarring idea, but makes sense. Because when you look beyond the book tours and the Netflix deals, there's something much larger unfolding. Foreign investors, global tech firms, think tanks with no clear mission, foundations that raise hundreds of millions with vague goals but very real political weight. Carlson raises a brow. So the money from books and speeches, it's just cover? Musk gives a dry, humorless smile. A distraction, he replies. Enough to keep the headlines spinning and the public calm. And it's working. For years, nobody asked how Obama could afford not just one multimillion-dollar estate, but three. Or how his global nonprofit manages to host private summits with corporate leaders and foreign officials. Or why he's suddenly involved in industries like green energy and artificial intelligence, sectors deeply tied to both government regulation and massive private capital. These aren't coincidences, Musk says. These are strategic moves. It's not about getting rich. He's already rich. It's about staying relevant, staying connected, staying powerful. Tucker leans back in his chair, lips pressed into a thin line. So we've been watching a magician's trick this whole time. Focus on the hand that waves in public, while the real moves are happening somewhere else entirely. Musk nods. Exactly. The audience feels it now. The slow unraveling of an illusion. Because if this is true, if Obama has been quietly building a post-presidency empire using the same donor networks, lobbyists, and foreign relationships he once regulated, then maybe this isn't just one man's story. Maybe it's the blueprint. And suddenly, the surface, the books, the speeches, the smiling interviews, doesn't feel like the truth anymore. It feels like a very well-produced cover story. It started with a simple question: how much influence does a former president really have? In the traditional sense, not much. After leaving office, most presidents enjoy the occasional spotlight. Award ceremonies, book launches, honorary degrees. They fade into legacy. They become history. But Barack Obama? He became something else entirely. Elon Musk leans forward, fingers steepled, his voice cutting through the silence. What Obama has built isn't just a legacy. It's an empire. Quiet, strategic, almost invisible. But it's real. Carlson raises a skeptical brow. What kind of empire are we talking about here? Musk doesn't miss a beat. Real estate, global partnerships, foundations, investments, and, most importantly, connections to power centers most Americans never see. He ticks off the list with unsettling ease. A $12 million estate on Martha's Vineyard. A mansion in Washington, D.C., not far from the White House. A third home in Hawaii. Private jets. Security details. A global foundation with opaque funding and elite access. All officially explained through book royalties and speaking fees. But Musk shakes his head slowly. I run multi-billion-dollar companies. I know what those numbers look like. This doesn't add up. And it's not just about the money. It's about who's helping him build it and why. Carlson's tone darkens. So what you're saying is there's a machine behind him? Musk nods. Yes, a machine of donors, foreign investors, policy influencers. They didn't vanish after his presidency. They're still there, still writing checks, still opening doors. Obama, it turns out, never really left the game. He simply changed the rules. Behind the headlines and public appearances, there's a network, a living, breathing organism of influence, stretching from Silicon Valley to the Middle East, from private boardrooms to international think tanks. And Obama sits at the center of it, not as a politician, not as a businessman, but as something else, a hybrid, a gatekeeper. He's meeting with world leaders, Musk explains. He's influencing policy, especially in sectors like green energy, tech, and media. These aren't random industries. These are the industries of the future, and the ones most deeply tied to government contracts and regulations. Carlson looks stunned, and no one's watching. Musk give a dry laugh. That's the beauty of it. He's a private citizen now. No transparency laws, no congressional oversight, just influence and access. It's a sobering moment, because it raises a much bigger question. If Obama is doing all of this quietly, with the help of a vast global network, how many other former leaders are doing the same thing? And if this is the new model for post-presidency, then what does retirement really mean anymore? Musk's voice drops to a near whisper. This isn't politics anymore. This is empire building. And Obama, he's building one of the most powerful private empires in modern history. Tucker Carlson leans in, his voice dropping low. Let's not dance around it, Elon. You're not just saying Obama is wealthy. You're saying he's still in the game, maybe more powerful than ever. So tell me, how? Elon Musk doesn't hesitate, because he never gave up power. He just learned to wield it differently. This isn't about book tours anymore. This is about policy. global strategy, economic leverage, and, as Musk makes clear, global access to U.S. power structures without accountability. Obama still meets with world leaders. He still influences major industries. Tech, energy, media. Musk says his voice calm but unwavering. And who funds his initiatives? Who gains from the policies he subtly pushes behind the scenes? Carlson's voice sharpens. Foreign governments? Musk's reply comes fast. Yes, China, the Middle East, parts of Europe. We're not talking about charity appearances. We're talking about strategic partnerships, think tanks, foundations with vague missions, and foreign money pouring into causes that just happen to align with his old campaign donors and political allies. And just like that, the illusion starts to crack. Because if Obama can still shape global discourse, still control narratives, still sway markets, and do it without being elected, without being questioned, then he's no longer just a former president. He's become something much more dangerous, an unelected power broker on the world stage. Carlson's voice takes on an edge of disgust. So while Americans are struggling to put food on the table, pay rent, deal with inflation, Obama is jet-setting around the globe, collecting massive paychecks and making backroom deals. That's exactly what I'm saying. Musk answers blunt as ever. And here's the thing, he's not alone. This is the system. Presidents don't retire, Tucker. They graduate. And the smart ones? They use everything they learn in office to build something even bigger. Carlson clenches his jaw. The reality is unsettling, not just because of what it says about Obama, but because of what it reveals about the entire system. The idea that public service was never about service at all, but a stepping stone to unchecked private power. You're telling me, Carlson says slowly, that the real power doesn't sit in Washington. It moves quietly through foundations, boardrooms, and international agreements no one voted on. Musk nods. Exactly. And that's what people don't understand. Power doesn't disappear. It mutates. It finds new forms. And Obama? He's mastered the new form. No laws. No transparency. No public scrutiny. Just access. Relationships. Leverage. And while everyday Americans go about their lives, believing democracy is still in their hands, the real decisions, the big moves, are being made behind curtains they can't see by people they didn't elect in meetings they'll never hear about. Obama has become the prototype, the gold standard, the architect of a new era of post-political dominance. And the scariest part? He's just getting started. Tucker Carlson sits still, his fingers loosely interlocked, his expression unreadable. But behind his eyes, you can see it, the calculation, the weight of everything that's just been said. So he begins slowly. What does this mean for the rest of us? The average American watching this right now, what are they supposed to take from all this? Elon Musk doesn't blink. His voice drops lower, his words sharper. It means the system isn't broken, Tucker. It's working exactly as it was designed to. That's the dagger. Because for years, people have been told the system needs fixing, patched up, made better. But Musk suggests something far more disturbing. The corruption, the inequality, the invisible power brokers, they're not bugs. They're features. And the public? They're not participants. They're spectators. Carlson leans forward again, this time not as a host, but as a man wrestling with a bitter truth. We're told democracy works, that our vote matters, that politicians serve the people. Musk looks straight ahead, his voice now steady, cold. But time and time again, no matter who you vote for, the money moves the same way. The policies benefit the same interests. The power stays in the same hands. It's a hard pill to swallow, because it means the game has been rigged from the beginning, not just by one man, not just by Obama, but by an entire class of elite operators who know how to manipulate public trust, media attention, and global finance. And they don't need elections. They just need silence. Carlson's voice tightens. So we're not citizens anymore. We're what? Consumers? Assets? Musk doesn't smile. Products, he replies. We're told what to care about. Fed stories to believe. Distracted just enough to keep us from noticing who's pulling the strings. The studio falls into a long pause. The silence is uncomfortable, but necessary. Because this isn't just about Obama. It's about a machine that turns elected officials into power brokers, that transforms public service into private empire, that rewards silence and punishes questions. And the longer the public plays along, believing what they're told, trusting the surface story, the deeper the roots grow. Carlson finally speaks again, softer this time. So what's the takeaway? Musk leans back in his chair, his expression unreadable. Wake up, not just Obama, but to all of it. Ask the questions nobody wants you to ask. Follow the money. Watch who they meet, what boards they join, what industries they suddenly care about. He pauses, because the moment the public stops believing the illusion, the game gets dangerous. Carlson turns to the camera, and this time, there's no performance in his voice, just quiet, simmering frustration. Ask yourself, are you paying attention? Or are you just another pawn in a game you never knew existed? The screen fades to black, and for the first time, silence says everything.